Hello there. Thanks again for stopping by. Today I have a special treat for you. I recently purchased a Game of Thrones Hand of the King card game. I saw it on sale at a GameStop, and I simply couldn't resist. It has a couple notable characters right on the cover. I don't know if you can see it that well, but this character here has steel gray eyes. And a stoic face. Making that none other than Ned Stark, Lord of Winterfell, and Warden of the North. As I say those words, I want to preface this entire video by stating that I may accidentally blurt out a spoiler or two about either the show or the books, both which I'm fully caught up on and have reread and rewatched more than once. I just may do it subconsciously, so I apologize. I promise I will not do it intentionally. A lot of that is just pretty much almost second nature to me. Behind Ned Stark, we have Daenerys Targaryen. The Stormborn. Behind her we have Tywin Lannister, Lord of Casterly Rock. Up top here we have Cersei Lannister, daughter of Tywin, mother of Joffrey Lannister, and husband to Robert Baratheon, King of the Seven Kingdoms. Here we have Victorian Greyjoy. Below him, Bran Stark. This character, I'm assuming to be Catelyn Stark, wife of Ned Stark and mother to Bran, but it could possibly be someone else. And then we have Sir Sandor Clegane, otherwise known as the Hound, a fierce fighter with a vicious-looking face that was burned by his brother for simply playing with a toy. So, let's take a look at the back. It says here, the King of Westeros has just announced his intention to name a new Hand of the King. Varys moves through the nobles, whispering names and gathering support. But will he get more support for you or for your opponents? In this clever game, 2 to 4 players take character cards to earn banners. The player with the most banners wins. Can you earn the title of Hand of the King? I think I can. So, let's go ahead and take a look inside. But first, let's make a little noise. Okay, so I fought through the plastic barrier. And now we're going to move on through the second layer, albeit a much thinner, yet no less stubborn form of defense. Okay. If you can't tell, I'm a pretty big fan of George R. R. Martin's work. A Game of Thrones is an amazing world. Well, technically, it's the world of ice and fire, but the series, Game of Thrones, and the Song of Ice and Fire is incredible. The amount of detail and depth within this world is stunning. You can literally go on the A Song of Ice and Fire wiki and get lost for hours just by clicking on a random page or by looking up any category. I think it's fascinating how you can click on one house, whether it be in Westeros or Essos, and you can see generations of family members and their accolades and the rivalries and, small accomplishments, large accomplishments, and different ways they've interacted with other houses, and all the complexities that have grown from that. It really feels like another world can relate to. And it's just incredible. I can't even say enough about it. So I'm very excited to take a look at this. Also, the artwork itself on this box is pretty neat. I'm very excited to see how it looks inside. So let's get started. I can see one of my favorite characters already. Hodor. If you're not familiar with Hodor, maybe you haven't gotten that far along in the show or in the books, just wait, you're gonna love him. I actually own a shirt. It's in the style of a Jack Daniels bottle shirt, but instead of saying, distilled here and old number 7 and all that, it actually just has a bunch of Hodors, Hodor, just all over the place. And you know a true Game of Thrones fan when they stop and they talk to you about that shirt, because they absolutely love it and they want to like take a picture of it and stuff. It's a lot of fun. Asha Greyjoy. Very cool character. She is the sister of Tyrion Greyjoy. Oh, Tyrion Greyjoy. I saw Hand of the King, and I thought of Tyrion, of Theon Greyjoy. That right there is the crest of the Hand of the King. Appears we have an instruction manual. Oh wow. Okay. There's a lot here. Talks about the setup, playing the game, companion cards, end of the game. I'll read a couple of things from here. I'm not going to read all this though. Says here for the setup, create King's Landing. Shuffle the 35 cards and the various cards together. Then place each card face up onto the center of the table, creating a 6x6 grid of the cards. This is King's Landing. Each player should also have space in front of him. This is his play area. Oh, they go right for the his. This is definitely Game of Thrones style. Gather banners. Place the banner tokens near King's Landing. Prepare companions. Shuffle the deck of companion cards, then reveal the top 6 cards from the deck and place them face up beside the deck. Determine first player. The youngest player takes the first turn. I'll read a little bit of this section here, playing the game. During a game, starting with the first player and proceeding clockwise, players take turns moving the varies cards. To move varies, a player declares both a direction and a house. The declared direction indicates the path of cards along which the player will move varies, and the declared house indicates the cards in the chosen direction that the player wishes to take. A player can only move varies along the grid of cards in one of the 4 cardinal directions: up, down, left, or right. There seems to be an example of that here. It gives you an example of the ways that he can move. If you're not familiar, Varys is the master of whispers in King's Landing, and is basically the master of espionage and secrets, if you will. Varys cannot move diagonally. Varys must always move to another card in the grid, and that card must belong to the house that the player declared. Each character card belongs to one of the 7 houses in King's Landing, each of which is identified by both the card's background colors and a unique sigil on the upper left corner of the card. After a player has declared a direction in a house, he moves Varys to the farthest character card of that house in that direction, moving over any other character cards and empty spaces along the way. Then, the player takes the character card that Varys was moved to, as well as any other character cards of his declared house that Varys moved over. The cards he takes are removed from King's Landing and placed in his play area. At the end of his turn, if the character cards he has taken give him an equal or greater number of character cards belonging to that house than any of his opponents, he takes that house's corresponding banner token and places it in his play area. Players continue taking turns moving Varys to collect character cards and house banners until the game ends. The game ends immediately when Varys cannot move because there is not a character card in any direction. Interesting. Looks like there's some credits that are given. And they give you a 4-player team variant, 3-eyed crow variant, very interesting. So let's get to the fun part. Oh, here's some banners. We have a couple 3-eyed ravens. If you're not familiar, that's Brendan Rivers, otherwise known as the 3-eyed raven. And here's some of the major house banners. The stag which is now the crowned stag, represents House Baratheon of the Stormlands. Right there. The Kraken sigil represents House Greyjoy of the Iron Islands. The Lion sigil represents House Lannister of the Westerlands. The Direwolf sigil represents House Stark of the North. The Rose sigil represents House Tyrell of the Reach. The Fish symbol represents House Tully of the Riverlands. And finally, the three-headed dragon represents House Targaryen, the former ruling house of the Seven Kingdoms. Fun stuff. So let's look at some cards. So before, as we were talking, there's Asha Greyjoy. Roderick Greyjoy. Balon Greyjoy. That's Asha's father. And, well, I almost gave away a spoiler there, but that's Asha's father, and he's Lord of Pike, which is the house of the Greyjoys on the Iron Islands. This is one of my favorite characters. Victarion Greyjoy. He is a fierce warrior and a large man who wears plate armor while sailing. Which, if you're not sure why that's significant, if he were to fall overboard in his plate armor, he would easily be sunk right to the bottom and drown. He is the brother of Balon. They really just did not do Theon any favors. That's Theon Greyjoy. I love the artwork of these cards. He is the son of Balon, and before the shower series ever begins, Pike, which the Lord Balon controls, declares for independence from the rest of the kingdom, and gets basically smacked down by Robert Baratheon, the king. And as a result, Balon loses a few of his sons. Theon, the youngest one, is left. And he's taken as a ward, which, if you're not familiar with that term, a ward is when somebody's more or less placed as a hostage, but in a nice way, and kept under the control and safety of another castle or house, to ensure that the father and the house that rose in rebellion will behave, essentially. Almost like a hostage, but not as malicious, I suppose. So Theon is a ward of Ned Stark, Lord of the North. Or Warden of the North, rather. Lord of Winterfell. This guy's awesome. This is Euron Greyjoy. Again, fantastic artwork. He's one of my favorite characters of the entire series. If you're in the middle of the books, you'll see he comes on later and really makes a strong appearance. This is Aeron Greyjoy. Oh, by the way, I should mention, Aeron and Euron are both brothers to Lord Balon. Aeron is a drowned priest who are the religious heads, if you will, of the drowned god. The religion rather, of the drowned god's the god of the Ironborn. And he's known as Aeron Damphair for obvious reasons, because they're really big about the ocean and drowning people and so on. Another very fantastic character, because he's a zealot. He's a zealot and very interesting. Let's place the Greyjoys over here. This is Stannis Baratheon, brother to Robert Baratheon, the king of the Iron Throne. Stannis is a fan favorite in the books for many reasons, but he's a very hard man. He is stern and stoic and very, if you want to layman's terms it, by the book. He is very that's really the best way to explain it. Not a lot of people like him because he's just not any fun. This is Robert Baratheon. Not in his best form. Robert was a fierce warrior in the Seven Kingdoms, some say the best at the time. And as he became king, like with many kings in world history, he became more of a drunkard and gluttonous, and really indulged in those luxuries of kingship, and just became grossly overweight, and a lot of people laughed at him and took him as a joke. Even though when he first earned the throne, he was one of the biggest badasses you can ever imagine. And he had this big war hammer that he would just smash people's chest in with. So that's the elder brother of Stannis. Then there's also Renly Baratheon, who is Stannis and Robert's younger brother. And I don't want to give too much about Renly, because it is very important to the books and the show. But he's a very interesting character as well. This is a very good character. Shireen Baratheon. If you notice, she has some discoloration of her face there. That's called grayscale. It's a disease, a very deadly one in the world of Plantos. She becomes inflicted by it at a very young age, and well, there's a lot to that, but she is disfigured because of it. However, she is a fascinating character and the daughter of Stannis Baratheon. Here we have a character that's not always a fan favorite, but my God, you have to respect him. Tywin Lannister, Lord of the Westerlands, Warden of the West. Lord rather of Lannisport and oh my goodness, why is it eluding me now? I said it earlier. Oh, Caster the Rock. There we go. And he is just one of the best game players you can have. He is a fantastic tactician for the military. He also knows his way around a court, allocating people and resources. Very respectable, honorable man to an extent, where he keeps his word, pays off his debts. But my God, you do not want to be an enemy of his, because he will absolutely terrorize you and destroy you if you threaten his house or his designs of what he's trying to achieve. This is Joffrey Baratheon. I think they captured him quite well. You'll learn a lot about Joffrey as you go through this series and the show. He is the elder son of Robert Baratheon, and really took on the Lannister looks quite well. And I guess I should say Cersei Lannister, who's his mother, is the queen of the Seven Kingdoms. That's all I'll say about that. The kid's got a bit of a temper for sure. That's Jaime Lannister, Sir Jaime Lannister. Knighted at 16, and he was part of the Kingsguard of the Mad King Aerys, and is known as the Kingslayer for having killed his own king for what he saw as justifiable reasons, but what as many see as just being disgraceful. You'll learn a lot about that as you go, and he has some other more eternal affairs that happen throughout the book, but well, I'll just let you figure that one out. This is everyone's probably favorite character, if not one of them. Tyrion Lannister, the imp. Him and Jaime are both sons of Tywin Lannister, and he's a dwarf. And dwarves have a very bad reputation in this world, and they're often looked down upon and taunted and used just as jesters. And so he's not taken very seriously, and his father pretty much hates him for being a dwarf and killing his mother when he was born, because he was just so disfigured and large-headed. However, he's a brilliant diplomat, very cunning in the court, and he's also very courageous. And he loves women and alcohol, and he drinks and knows things. So there's a lot of interesting things with him, including, if you're very familiar with the show and the books, on Reddit there's a lot of interesting theories about Tyrion as well. Cersei Lannister. A very familiar character to anybody familiar with the show or the books. She is the daughter of Tywin Lannister, the twin sister of Jaime, and elder sister to Tyrion, who she despises. I'm not going to really get too much into her because she's a pivotal character in the series. Really well done character, and very well acted as well. I can't remember the actress's name who plays her. She also played in the movie 300, but she is phenomenal. She's also renowned as being one of the most gorgeous women in the Seven Kingdoms. Then there's Sir Kevin Lannister, the brother of Tywin. He is a brilliant military mind, and he's a very loyal and content man. So Tywin's always just kept him in high regard and used him a lot for his different maneuverings, throughout his life. And he's a good family man too. He cares a lot about his family. Now, this guy is probably the most honorable man you'll ever meet. Eddard Stark, otherwise known as Ned Stark, the Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North. There's a lot to say about Ned, but I'll keep it pretty short. He's a very humble and honorable man who is stoic, and many see him as hard, but he is a big family man, and all of his bannermen, well, most of his bannermen love him and respect him. And he is not, though he's a great warrior, well, a good warrior, though some would consider him great, he is not much of a game player and I guess we could say, like a person in court. He's not a great courtier. He's not very skilled with words. And he's definitely not deceitful by any means. So that comes into play during the books. Bran Stark. Technically, he is Ned's third son. But second son in the line of lordship. He is a pivotal character in the series, so I won't say much about him. But he is a young boy who loves to climb. And also has a fascination for fighting. And down the line becomes obsessed with ravens and crows. This is Arya. Another huge fan favorite. Arya Stark is Ned's youngest daughter. And she is hilarious because she is the typical tomboy and loves fighting instead of dressing up. And she's nothing like her elder sister. And she often is referred to as a boy because of her short hair and gruff looks and gruff attitude. And she uses a sword called Needle. And a very important character as well to the books. She goes on a very interesting journey that allows her to figure out kind of who she is. And for a while she has to forget who she is. So. This is Catelyn Stark. Catelyn is, well, she is from the Riverlands and is a Tully. And Lord Tully, who is the Lord of the Trident, basically. She is his second daughter, and she married Ned Stark after his brother Brandon died. That's who she was originally supposed to wed. She's a very loving family person, strong mother. She believes in the Southern gods, otherwise known as the New Gods. So it's like the faith of the Seven, and so she has a tough time coping with the North and the old gods that Ned worships and so on. She, her heart becomes a big thing during the books. So this is Rickon Stark. He's the youngest son of Ned and fourth in the line. Well, third in the line, but the fourth son. He's a wily boy. He's only 4 in the books. He's a little bit older in the show. And he is just temperamental. And we really don't know too much about him other than that, just because he's so young. Seems like a good kid. This is Robb Stark, the eldest son of Ned. And he is also the heir of Winterfell. He is a very pivotal character in the books and the show. So I won't give away too much about him, but he's a good kid and really, cutting into his father's, what can we say, cutting into form like his father. Honorable, stoic, brave, things like that. Has a hard time keeping his head in certain situations, Temperamental for sure. This is Sansa Stark, Ned's eldest daughter, and She's the typical I want to be a princess kind of thing. She believes in fairy tales and knights that are heroic and always save the day and come save the princess in distress, the damsel in distress. That's what she's all about. She's really good at doing a curtsy and things like that. She goes through a lot of trials and tribulations throughout her arc. And though we haven't finished it yet, you can see where it's really starting to round up to making a very dynamic character who learns a lot about the court life. Oh wow, didn't see this one coming. This is Lyanna Stark. Well, without getting too much into her, she is she's Eddard's sister, so Ned's sister, and I'm pretty much going to stay away from her, but that's her. She's a very good fighter, loves riding horses, and was betrothed for a while there to Robert Baratheon, who becomes King of Westeros, and he has a very strong love for her, we'll put it that way. This is Olenna Tyrell. This picture really doesn't do her justice. She is, in the show, she's played by a wonderful actress. I can't think of her name, but she is an excellent person in the courts, really knows the game of Thrones better than pretty much anyone. She's very secretive and excellent at deception. This is Garland Tyrell. I don't know too much about Garland, to be honest. I know his place with the Tyrells, but that's pretty much it. I know he's a great fighter, and he doesn't play too strong of a role in the books or show. I don't even think he's in the show at all, but in the books, he doesn't play too strong of a role. This is Marjorie Tyrell. She is a very interesting character, and I would say in the books she's like a B actress, like a B character, if you will. As far as her importance level, really her ability to marry with somebody and connect her family to another is the most important factor she has. But she's also becoming a very good game player because she's counseled and being mentored a lot by Olenna. She's also very gorgeous in both the show and as it's stated in the books as well. And she's going to play a pivotal role with her family as time goes on in the series. This here's the spider. Varys. There's a lot to be said about Varys, but I won't get too much into it. He is a eunuch, and he just plays a dynamic role in both show and books. And he's the master of whispers and has little birds that control a lot of the espionage and secrets around the King's Landing and pretty much the entire continent of Westeros. This is Hoster Tully, father of Catelyn. He is old but very stoic and strong, and rules the Trident in the Riverlands. This is Edmure Tully. He becomes a more pivotal character as time goes on, and he is the heir to the Riverlands and the son of Hoster, and that's Catelyn's brother. This is Viserys Targaryen. He is the brother of Daenerys, who I'm sure we'll see in a minute. He is an entitled, hot-tempered, just very rude individual who wants everything and wants it now. You'll see as time goes on in the show and in the books, that temper really start to catch up to him, and him starting to lose that entitlement as time goes on. This is Rhaegar Targaryen. He's not so much in the show, but in the books he plays a very pivotal role on the entire series. He is a great musician, strong, stoic, handsome. He's like every woman's fantasy, basically. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say about him. Him and Robert Baratheon really don't get along too well. This is Aerys Targaryen, the Mad King, who is obsessed with lighting his enemies and, well, not enemies too, subjects even, on fire. He's obsessed with fire, obsessed with whispers and spying and conspiracies. He's a very paranoid individual. And that's Rhaegar's father, and Daenerys' father, and Viserys' father. This is Daenerys Targaryen. She is a very important character in both books and show. And I won't get too much into her because pretty much anything about her is a spoiler. But she is with her brother Viserys in Essos. So I'll put it that way. And this here is Aegon the First Targaryen. This gentleman here is probably one of the biggest badasses of all time, if not the biggest. He comes from a family of dragon lords, and at the time when he was living on Dragonstone, his family, his two sisters, they had 3 dragons. His was Balerion the Black Dread, a large black dragon that whenever it breathed fire, it was black fire that would just burn so hot it can melt stone. And so he decided, after being provoked, to go into Westeros and conquer it all with his dragons in a small army. And it was hard, and he had to be tactful for a while, but he was able to do it through his sheer will and through the power of his dragons. Most particular, Balerion the Black Dread. So he is a dynamic character in the entire setting of Westeros and world history. Not just in recent, like the things he did brought the 7 kingdoms together. Before, when there were just 7 individual kingdoms, they were always warring and conquered one land or the other. He stopped all of that. Technically, he only brought 6 kingdoms together because Doran was able to resist him for a while, but eventually they fell into the kingdoms as well. Huge, huge character. So that's it for the houses. We have some of these smaller cards too, but I think we'll save them for another video. And maybe when we do that, maybe we'll play a little mock round of the game as well. So, I hope that you enjoyed going through all these fantastic characters and houses with me. I'm very surprised, even though technically Jon Snow is a bastard and not really part of House Stark. I'm very surprised he wasn't here at all. But, you know, he's a huge character everyone loves. One cool thing about this box that I noticed, they have advertisements for other games. Some game called Mafia Vendetta, that's pretty cool. Hey, That's My Fish. A Sub-Zero game of fishy strategy. It's pretty neat. And there's Hoax, a fast-paced game of secret identities. And then there's Game of Thrones Westeros Intrigue, a card game from 2 to 6 players. Interestingly enough, there's some of the actors and actresses of a Game of Thrones, and there's Jon Snow. So, they have him on there. But, yeah. I can't wait to play this game. I have a couple of friends who I already told about this, and they're incredibly excited as well. So we're going to have some fun. And I hope that you're all doing very well. And I hope most of you are asleep by now. If you're not, I don't blame you. Game of Thrones definitely keeps me awake too. For all of you show watchers like myself, it pains me that we have to wait another 1.5 years approximately for the next final season of the show. And for all you book readers like myself, it pains me even more that just recently George R. R. Martin released a statement stating that there's no foreseeable timeline on when Winter is going to be released. So we'll have to keep begging for sample chapters and holding out and waiting. But, well, until then, I'm definitely going to go ahead and do the companion cards another night. And as I said, I'll probably do a mock game after I play this a few times with some friends, get a good feel for it, and then I'll show you guys how it's done. I hope you have yourself a great night or morning or whenever you're watching this. Take care.